Hello, everyone. As we start coming on in here on Substack, on YouTube, on Twitch, on X, on whatever heck platform
Mhm.
you are watching us on right now, welcome to the Anti-Fascist Book Club on Banner and Backbone. I'm Nick Perro, co-founder here at Banner and Backbone, joined by my good friend Tara Devlin of Terror Busters
Hello,
and the
hello.
Political Voices Network. How are you today, Tara? Before we start digging into anything for the day, I'm
All
pulling up our
good.
chat
All
and
good. Yeah, I
welcoming
mean, I'm all right. I'm all right.
everyone.
One day at a time. Yeah. Right. Trying
Yeah,
to connect. I'm trying to connect our my YouTube. So let's see what happens.
we'll see what
For
happens there.
mm-hmm.
But it's good to see everyone. It's been a couple weeks since we last met. We took time off for. I was in DC with Chris Goldsmith to support Tad Stormer's book release for um, Resistance History of the United States by Tad Stormer, which I have a copy of here on my shelf, which is going to be one of our books, upcoming books in the book club. Um, but today we're finally back to finish our discussion on Masha Gessen's Surviving Autocracy. We're on chapters 20 to 22 and the epilogue, which are the final bits of the book. And I'm hoping we're going to have a really great discussion today to close out and get back into what we have been doing. So, welcome everyone. It's been a while, so let's do a
Mm.
quick refresher on what the book club is and what the book club isn't. And if you're here with us on Substack, hit the heart and like and share this so that we can get everyone in on the discussion. We've got a great conversation we're going to have. We always do. And it's good to see everyone as you start coming in with us. Again, I know it's been a while, but let's start it off with what the book club is, what the book club isn't, how we got here. And so above my head on the top left corner of your screen right here is a QR code to the Veterans Fighting Fascism Anti-Fascist Book Club guide, which will help you start your own book club. This is a resource for learning. This is not the end goal. This is not the stopping point. This is your starting point. This is your starting point on getting information, learning, advancing your knowledge, because knowledge is power, and applied knowledge and focused applied knowledge is real power and causes true change. And so we want to arm ourselves with the knowledge to actually understand what's going on around us and why and how we got here and how do we get the fuck out of it. How do we get out of fascism?
Mm.
And how do we move forward, not just reconcile, but rebuilding and reclaiming, because we can't just reconcile what's going on. We need to reclaim it. We need to rebuild our democracy. We need to refashion guardrails that work and are not impotent in the face of these oppressive forces.
Mm.
And this book club is your starting opportunity to join us in that discussion. It's also a place where you can then learn and bring it into your own life. So, what the book club is like I said, it's a starting point on knowledge. What it isn't is your end all be all. So, the next step is go bring this into your real life. One, learn the lessons from the books that we are reading and what we're discussing, use them, practice them, and if you can, start your own book club too. And the Veterans Fighting Fascism Anti-Fascist Book Club guide, like I said, right here above my, if I can find how to get my finger right here above my head is your starting point. This teaches you how to get involved, and by the end of book or by the end of session 6, you don't need the guide anymore, other than having the books, which books you
Mm.
want to read and which books you're going to read. And so the whole point is you don't actually need us. You don't need me. You don't need Tara. You don't need Chris Goldsmith. You don't need any of us after the first couple sessions. We love that you're here with us in this virtual book club. Um, and we want you to start your own. So, welcome everyone to the final episode of Surviving Autocracy by Masha Gessen, where we close out our book. Tara, I've monologued here a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. Keep going.
How are you? And do you want to start us off on anything you found really important from these last couple chapters in the book?
Well, it was a little heartbreaking, really, because Marcia Gessen talks about how we can stave off the authoritarian attempt, and that's what they talk about. How that's the stage at the time the book was written. That is the stage we're in, the authoritarian attempt, and I think that it's a little bit worse now. I think that the it's worse. This maladministration is worse than the last one because there's no guardrails anymore. There's no one really slowing him down, and this is a true authoritarian takeover. They are lawless, completely lawless, and it's she Marcia Gessen writes that we will have an attempt, we will have a opportunity to get it back in the election, in Joe Biden's election, basically, and we did that, but now we're I guess they could not have predicted at the time that that we would be in another Trump maladministration. But this time, he's learned how to surround himself with sycophants and lickspittles, and how who's going to stop him? That's what he's learned, I believe. He's getting rid of everyone who had any allegiance to the country and the Constitution, and he's going for broke. That's for sure. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and we're going to be broke. That he's breaking us. He's breaking this country. So, yeah.
Yes, I think you put a good point, and I want to talk about that real quick. Is the institution side is when we got power back, when sorry, not we, but when
Mm-hmm.
the Democratic Party had power over the last or the previous administration, the almost everything we heard was about institutional power and securing the institution and saving the institution, but never about what those institutions are really formed of, which
Mm-hmm.
is us, the people, and that we are the guardrails of those institutions. It was
Right.
a lot of, we have these norms we have to follow, these institutions will work themselves out, they're unbreakable by the fascist system,
Right.
but the institutions themselves can't save us. They
No.
never could.
No.
Norms and traditions never were going to be the thing that saved us. The only norm and the only tradition that would save us and will save us is the tradition of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And the US has a rich history of resistance, some failing and some working really well. And we made false assumptions that there was good faith on both sides of the aisle after Trump was gone.
Right.
Like, the false assumption that was made was once Trump left office the first time, there would be a return
Yeah.
to normalcy,
Right.
a fake normalcy, but there would be a return to the illusion that there was good faith participation from both sides of the aisle,
Right.
or all ends of the political spectrum. And we should have known better, because history has shown that when
Right.
political systems bend towards fascism and an entire party is captured by those forces, there is no longer goodwill or good faith between the parties, and the institutions require that good faith to
Right.
operate, and it's not there.
That's it. Yeah, it requires an agreement. Democracy requires an agreement. It requires that we all play by the rules, and that's gone out the window. And we have on top of it this corrupt and illegitimate Supreme Court that is giving Trump the veneer of legal legitimacy for everything he does. I just can't believe um, not only the what do you call it? They gave him complete immunity for his actions, as if that I mean that he's using that to his advantage, as if no other president before him could decisively act within the bounds of the law. We seem to have been capable of doing it, of being a nation of laws before Trader Trump. And the fact that three of the Supreme Court justices in the birthright citizen case ruled that the Constitution is unconstitutional, that really baffled me, frankly, because I don't understand how the Constitution is unconstitutional when that's what they're supposed to be, as Robert said, calling balls and strikes, right? That's what
Hmm.
old balls and strikes Roberts said. That's what he's there to do. He's just an umpire, which is complete bullshit. These kings are these Catholic majesties are legislating from the bench and fundamentally reshaping this country into this authoritarian takeover. They're helping him. I mean, every now and then they'll give him a slap on the wrist, but with the it's not even with the birthright citizenship thing. That whole thing is out of is really out of control because it's in the Constitution. So if you're a judge, you're supposed to go by the law. You're not supposed to say I don't agree with this law. That's the law, and and that's the Constitution. You don't like the Constitution, there is a mechanism to change the Constitution, but and it's not the Supreme Court overrules it. So there's no mincing words in the Constitution about birthright citizenship. It's there. So that's what really gives away the game of what they're doing, how they are there to fix the facts around the policy and give the lawlessness the legal legitimacy, when it's just like in every other authoritarian takeover. It happened in Nazi Germany. It happens everywhere. This is a captured court, and like we're saying, and it has been rigged when Mitch McConnell shoved these people onto the court, making up rules as they go, right? Not allowing Obama, and it's not even not allowing Obama to put a Supreme Court justice on the court. He was spitting in the face of the American people who elected Obama in two landslide elections to have that role. And this is what the Republicans think of the Constitution and the country. And we were just talking off the air about how they're attacking veterans, disabled veterans, but if you interview a Republican, they'll think, oh, that the Republicans support the troops and all of that, when that is nothing further from the truth. Really, they hate the troops. The troops are just they're good backdrops and photo ops, I suppose. So that's about it.
Yeah,
And yeah, anyway, we do have our work cut out for us. And reading this book, frankly, it was kind of like heartbreaking, I have to say, because yeah.
it is.
Hmm. It's like a warning from the past, but here we are. How did they? That's why I will never forgive people who voted for Trump. And the first time, it's bad enough. I could barely forgive people who voted for somebody who came down an escalator calling Mexicans rapists. That in itself, any patriot understands that bullshit is right out of the fascist playbook and should have recoiled from it. But okay, they think he's going to shake things up for whatever. They're okay, but we saw what he did. He left office with the worst jobs record since Herbert Hoover, and an insurrection. I mean, he's a poison in the body politic. A million dead behind him from the botched pandemic response and everything else that they've done. 60 times trying to overturn Obamacare. Now, in this first maladministration, I mean, they've done so much damage to this country. over 10 million people and counting have already lost their health insurance for the first time since the ACA was passed. We were heading in the right direction where more people were having health insurance. It should be universal health care, of course, but now we're going in the wrong direction. Now we're going backwards again. And that's what Republicans do. That's what Trump's there to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and the this sort of leads into, I guess, the whole discussion around restoration versus reinvention.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but before we get there, is a line I want to say out was, if the guardrails only work when people of good faith operate them, then no procedural reform saves you.
Hmm.
So we cannot procedurally get our way out of this unless the people are also behind it, because we have to have the voices and the person pressure to ensure that a change mechanism happens.
Hmm.
And that leads to the whole, like, really the heart of the book, which is restoration versus reinvention.
Hmm.
Um, and you were right that, yeah, it's sad as shit. Like,
It
this book is
is.
hard to read. It's not a happy-go-lucky. It does not make you feel good.
Especially
Um,
knowing what we're dealing with now. That's what
yeah,
is so heartbreaking.
knowing that we are in the reality of
Yes,
this
that's it.
happening. It's not when will fascism arrive in America? Are we at fascism? Should we be prepping? No, we're there. We're
Right.
there. We are in a
Yep.
dictatorial democracy.
Yep.
We are in an elected dictatorship at the moment. Um,
Yeah.
and we have to decide as a nation, as people, and this is where we have to get past our old political hierarchies and our old political framings of, this is not conservative versus progressive.
Right.
This is, or not conservative versus liberal. This is regressive versus progressive. And conservatives can be progressives.
That's
They're
true.
not the opposite end of the political spectrum, because a true conservative has to believe in conservation. And conservation requires change and growth. Just like in nature, conservation requires change and growth. Progressives believe that too. So
Hmm.
they have differences of flavors on how we get there, but there's a foundational truth that we need to progress forward, or do we regress backwards? And if we do restoration, we are just going to, and what I mean by restoration is restoring what we had right before Trump.
Mm.
Like, that is the idea of restoration that was outlined in Masha Gessen's book. And there's we cannot just restore what we had, because it wasn't actually working. It
Right.
was partially working,
Right.
but it wasn't working in the sense that it allowed Trump to happen.
That's what.
It
That's
allowed
what.
fascism to
Yes.
come in.
Right.
It opened the doors because the guardrails weren't actually there.
Yep. It was already
They
being
were,
whittled away. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah. Huh.
yeah. Pre Trump isn't good enough. We're not going back to the honor system. Like, we have to hard code these guardrails and these mechanisms into the system in a way that they are not just a piece of paper.
Hmm.
Like,
Right.
the enforcement mechanism isn't just a piece of paper saying, oh, we can impeach, or we can't get rid of senators who are brain dead and sitting in a hospital for
Jesus.
27 days.
Yeah.
And nobody has heard from him except for fake comments about, I've been
Yeah.
on a 20-minute call with
Everybody's on 20
Mitch.
minutes with him. Yeah.
Everyone's on a 20-minute call, but he can't take a moment to call the governor of his own fucking state.
which says everything though about how they view government service, public service. This is not his role. I mean, he serves, he works for us. How
Yeah.
dare he? How dare he? If he were working for a private company, you think he would be able to disappear and not tell his manager? Or, that would
Yeah.
never be accepted.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is what they're doing, that just goes to show you what they think about the people they pretend to represent. They don't
And
give a
this
shit.
and this is why we can't have restoration. We can't
That's
we
right.
can't restore something that was already broken, because
Yes.
then we're just putting patches onto a system that's still broken. Like, the foundation is cracked and breaking.
Yeah.
It has fallen apart. The foundation has fallen apart. And we need to reinvent it. The Constitution was meant to be amended, and those amendments are what got us our initial Bill of Rights.
Mm-hmm.
We put 10 of them down just to get all of the states to ratify the Constitution. It took almost a decade after we won our independence to actually ratify our Constitution. And we need to go back to remembering that we can do that too. We got sold a bill of lies that restoration, or that the
Yes.
Constitution couldn't change. And
Right.
if we were to restore that, what are we doing? We're
Mm-hmm.
just restoring a system that is already broken. We
Right.
need to actively fix that system, which is we need to amend it. We can take parts out of it. We
Yeah.
can invalidate pieces that are broken. Dude, you need to wait. Just go get it. If it's not pie,
It's the whipped cream in it.
yes, I already told you that. Go.
Okay. Yeah, whipped cream is strawberry.
We
Aw.
need to actually reinvent the system and add basic guardrails.
Yes, it's true because the Constitution, like you said, was supposed to be a living document. It's not written in stone. It's not the freaking 12 tablets or anything. And it was created to evolve with the people. And that's what the founders understood. And they even talked about it. That times will change, people will change. In order for this country to survive, it has to move with the times.
Yeah.
And they did, as Washington said, he hoped that the United States would forever be on the forefront of liberality, be a liberal nation, and that promoted the general welfare. I mean, yeah, well, let's put aside all their hypocrisies for a moment, but they were men of their time, of course, but they were still writing from the liberal age of enlightenment and created this experiment in self-governance that needs to be amended clearly because the problem that actually what Gesson writes is that because of it has like you were saying, the system has been corrupted over time, and we've allowed it. And one of the things they write about is the concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few, which is one of the flaws that we need to amend. And it has to. And they write about how we have these high flighty the way we view ourselves. Bring me, you're tired, you're poor, and all that. And that is a contradiction to what the reality truly is, even under Obama. And Gesson points out how he deported more people than really that Trump actually is deporting, and that opened the gate to all of the anti-immigration rhetoric as well. So are we that nation of immigrants and welcoming you're tired, you're poor, but we're not. We have to rectify. We have to make our really live up to our founding ideals if we're gonna survive, I believe, as a multiracial liberal democracy. And I wonder sometimes, though, what the best course is. because like you're talking about the institutions, the reason people thought that the institutions saved us because Trump was kicked out of office, even though he tried every means to remain in power. And on the corporate media, the message always was the institutions survived, they held, they saved
Hmm.
us. And that's really not the case because here we go again. And he will not shut up with his lies about the election was stolen. And they are setting it up to steal the midterms. Trump knows that if he loses this next election, that there will be subpoenas. We're going to find out all more about his corruption. They're in power to steal and make it easy to do so and to get away with it. So we only know about the 2 billion. I mean, it's just so disgusting that what's happening with the office of the presidency. And so, yeah, if that's why there will not be a peaceful transfer of power. He will try everything to to steal the election, to steal the midterms. You mark my words, he's going to cry foul wherever he loses, and it's going to be rigged and stolen. And yeah, they're going to try to steal it. Yeah, they're going to try to do everything they can, and that is an authoritarian state. We just saw somebody else murdered by ICE in the streets. Okay,
Yeah.
so
And so I want to ask you a question then, and I'll open this question up also to those in our audience for anyone who wants to answer it. Is in the book, Gessen says a demagogue's glorious future can
mm,
only be beaten by another glorious future.
right, yeah, it's true.
So, do you believe that that is true? And do you see others, or have you been? Because I've been seeing there's a great article, new set of articles out by Lawrence Winterman, who is talking a lot about this on the plan and where we go forward. And a lot of us have previously spoken on the idea, but what is your idea on having a 50-year, or what are your thoughts on having a 50-year strategy and using that to actually create our 2 and 6 year strategies
Mhm.
for representatives and senators to actually get behind and show that there is a glorious future, a semi utopia of sorts on our side?
Hmm. Well, I think
Or do you think that we should be messaging towards, say, boring, functional, normal?
well, I think that and Gesson writes in the book that talking about Bernie Sanders, that Bernie and Trump ran on a vision of America. He wasn't really running on policy as
Mhm.
much as whatever his picture that he was painting of ultimately white men in the in the catbird seat of power, and everybody's going to be great again, right? Going back to the 50s, basically, and strict racial hierarchies and gender wars and white people in charge. And Bernie on also painted a picture of what America could be. And then what Gesson writes is that the fact that Hillary Clinton had no picture. She wasn't painting a picture. She was saying we're going to have incremental change. Running on her resume is not very inspiring at all. But I agree with you. We need to have, and I agree with what Gesson writes, how we need to have another glorious future. Yeah, we need to be aspiring to something. And I believe that that future is universal health care, higher education, a living wage where you can have, if you're born poor, you don't have to remain poor. That in fact, there should be no category in our system of the working poor. The fact that that's even a thing is disgraceful. So that we're in this together. That has to be I believe the picture that we paint. But I do think that 50 years, a 50-year thing is far too long for people to even wrap their minds around, because people, yeah, okay, my great grandkids might have a better future, but I don't think that people are that. They want results now. We want That's why we vote. We vote hoping that things will change for us and for ourselves and our posterity, as the founders wrote. And but saying something like a 5-year plan sounds too much like the Soviet 5-year plan. So I don't think people will go for that. And of course, well, it doesn't matter. Republicans will criticize whatever anybody does to as communist as so. And your
Well,
dog is
thinking on that, I would I'll push back a little because I think we do need something like a 50-year strategy.
mm,
The the regressive movement did it.
mm.
They um, they
Well,
put together
they didn't.
Project 2025.
You're right, but
40-year plan that they kept putting out every year. They updated it a little bit each year, but they've had a long-term strategy goal for a long time. And we're
hmm
now seeing the fruits of all of that labor from their
okay,
side. And so I
yeah,
think to counter something like that is we do need a very long vision. We're at
I
250
don't know.
years as a nation right now. How do we get to 300? What does that actually look like? Because we know what the next steps look like for the fascistic takeover and ruling of the US is
hmm
restriction on restriction on restriction, and taking away rights and dismantling freedoms and attacking the disability community through the DOJ Olmstead memo that came out, which would undermine the ability for disabled individuals to get the least restrictive care necessary so that they can have in-home care and real support that doesn't institutionalize them forcibly forever, which would impact veterans who go to the VA, who could be forcibly institutionalized if they speak out, because the US has a history of calling protest a disease or a mental illness that's been around since slavery. When slaves ran away, they labeled runaway slaves as mentally unstable because God forbid somebody didn't want to live under slavery. Like, so they called them disabled, and then they cut their toes off so they
hmm
couldn't run away again
hmm
when they caught them. Then we had protest psychosis and other common names around that. And now we're seeing Trump derangement syndrome being researched as a
Really?
to a
Are
yeah,
they?
last year there was a house committee that
Oh,
sent that
those
out to talk
fuckers.
about Trump derangement syndrome as a DSM recognized
Oh, you fucking
disability,
bastard.
which would be used to codify dissent as a disability,
Of course, it's never going to
because
go
that's all
in.
it is. Is it
Yes.
is a way to prohibit dissent or
Yes.
resistance. And the
Trump
US,
derangement syndrome. Oh my God. Which is a patriotic imperative, frankly.
yeah, which the US
You
has a history of dissent. We're literally
Yeah,
founded on a declaration
but
of
it's like,
dissenting from a tyrant. We
mhm,
dissented from someone who was stealing our wealth,
right.
from unfair taxes, undue burdens and regulations that were harming citizens and not
Right.
producing prosperity for us in any way. We revolted against these things.
That's
And
right.
guess what? We can do it again. Our Constitution actually guarantees us the right to do it. That's the whole
The
point.
obligation,
Is the
the founders would
obligation to do it.
say. Yeah.
And so this whole idea
That's what it says
in
in the founding documents, that we have a duty to overthrow this. So,
yeah, and so my thought on all of this is the moral imperative of everything that's going on is not just resistance, but is active participation, because there is a vision for not America, but there is a vision for regression in this fascistic model. They gave their utopian design and they've run on it consistently for a decade. The the platform of the Republican Party for a decade has been whatever Trump says. That's the platform.
Yeah, that's it. They
And
stopped having a platform.
yeah, and they stopped having a platform. So there's nothing to restore to. There's nothing to go back to. And the Democrats' platform was institutions will hold themselves. No, they won't. They won't because people are tired, people are beat down, and we have been told that civic engagement is unnecessary. That's for politicians and politicos to do.
Yeah.
They do the civic engagement for you. But that's not how democracies work. And so we have to reinvent the system to be inclusive in our democracy. And by inclusive, I mean things like maybe it's time that we implement something like what Australia does, where you're required to vote.
Yeah.
And if you don't vote, you have to pay a nominal fine.
That would be ideal, but these are ideas that Democrats have proposed and tried to advance, and Republicans are always opposed to it because they know if people vote, they lose. Like Paul Weyrich, the founder of the Heritage Foundation, said years ago, we don't want everybody to vote. Our leverage in the election goes up when the voting populace goes down. They know this. So, yeah.
And part of that has been, in my mind, too, has been because they have a plan in place. They had a strategy goal in place since since Roe v. Wade. They had a platform policy basically set up to overturn that and begin regressing rights and freedoms as quickly as possible. And they've enacted it.
Yes, but
It
I
doesn't
mean,
have to be, we don't have to have like, it does have to be a comprehensive plan, but it also needs to be a vision. We need a spokesperson again, not a demagogue, not someone who is going into the office of, say, the president to maintain power, but someone who's going in there with a vision on how we can appropriately relinquish those powers back to their branches of government. What do we need for an inspector general branch? What do we need, or should we have a fourth branch of government? I think we should, because these entities are not policing themselves in any way.
right. I
And
mean,
we need to
you're
have
right.
a system that audits and polices them that's independent of Congress, that's
Well,
independent of the judiciary, because we have corrupt Supreme Court justices that could easily be charged with crimes in multiple states and
mhm.
should be.
They
And we
should
need
be
to,
impeached. I mean, especially Clarence Thomas and all Alito taking money from these from Harlan Crow, from the billionaires, lying about it, not putting it on their disclosure forms, and then
and
saying, "Oh, I didn't know I had to do that. I didn't know. You didn't know
and
you had to
how
put."
we
Right. Hmm.
yeah, and how we get there is we get there. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're
Is
fine. You're fine.
how we get there is we do the impeachments, we follow through, and we force them through.
Yeah.
And
No.
that is not a that and by force them through, I don't mean we do things unconstitutionally. The Constitution can be amended and fixed. This requires a citizen first effort. The entire way we get there is we go upstream of the politics, of the politicians. We talk to people, we change culture, we revisit what culture is in this country. We do things like force Graham Plattner out of the
Oh
race
God.
because
Yeah.
he has credible rape charges against them. And then we learn the lesson of what should be learned out of that is it wasn't the
Right.
platform that was the problem, it was the person.
Yes, but
And we don't backtrack on the platform and the policy ideas that were presented because those weren't the problem. The idea of having better medical care for people, not leaving people behind, the vision of Medicare for all. How we get there can be discussed. How we get there can have shades of gray, and we will negotiate our way to Medicare for all, because democracy is what you negotiate for, not just what you vote for. And we need good negotiators, but we also have to stand on a moral imperative. We have to reclaim and reinstitute ethics and morals into our political system. And to do that is we have to have people behind all of that reminding these politicians every single day with mechanisms to remove them if they don't follow through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where reinvention comes in. Is right now we're stuck in a system that polices itself.
Oh,
It
well,
really
that's
it protects itself. We need a system that is more direct democracy,
mm, mm, mm.
more
Well,
direct, and force people to be slightly more involved or a lot more involved, and simplify our democracy again. Go back to, I'm okay with going back to things like School of Rock style bills,
what do you
where
mean?
a bill is a single item. It is not filled with a bunch of shit that doesn't belong with it. When we present laws or we bring them up for debate on the floor of the House or the Senate, that bill, we should never have bills that are more than one area of discussion. Bills should not be able to encompass, say, veterans' rights and voting. They're
Yeah.
two different things.
But they've loaded
And
up
they
with
would,
all their pork projects, right? Of course, but
and
these
that,
are,
and
I
part
mean,
of
these are
this is,
all, it's all great. It's all great ideas, but
part
how?
of that is the reinvention. How?
Well,
Well,
that's, yeah, I
we
mean,
have a ton of candidates running in primaries right now that are running on the Citizens Impeachment and Courage for Democracy platform, which they are creating the coalition of candidates needed before the elections to push this change.
mm-hmm.
And that's what we need. We need to support the candidates that are actually
Yeah.
running right now. And for things like what happened in Maine, we need a candidate with the same platform,
Right.
just without the rape charges.
Well, that's the thing too. That's why Graham Plattner, when his supposed concession speech proved that he was unfit for the job, frankly, in my
Mhm.
opinion, because there was no I'm sorry, no conciliation. It was all what he's poor me, and and the apparatchiks. What is it? The party apparatchiks. I can't say that word. Are after me and all that. Like, shut the fuck up. Yeah, really, really, with your fucking Nazi tattoo and everything, and all these rape charges. We don't like. What is this shit? There's enough. It's not about you. It's about we got to get Susan Collins out of there. And what are your? What? It's about the policies. That's what it is. It's not. I don't care about Graham Plattner. I care if the candidate who supports democratic policies, and anybody with a D after their name. And in this election needs to be supported, frankly. And yeah, but there you go.
Anyone with a D after we vet them fully.
Right. And that's the
I'm going to
thing.
put that clause in there,
Right. After
because
we vet them. Right.
after
But
we
I
vet them.
wonder what happened with that. See, this is the other thing. It reminds me of Tulsi Gabbard. If you recall back during the Obama years, Tulsi Gabbard was their rising star in the Democratic Party, and she was touted by Obama and praised by Pelosi as one of their new great Democrats. But she was always in that fucking cult. I mean, you didn't have to scratch the surface too hard. She had a very sus background, and clearly now we know who she is. She's like obviously she was taking orders from her guru, and this anti-gay cult that she was in.
Yeah.
Really, it's just
Well, and it's a failure of the Democrat. One
yeah,
is we need to get out of a two-party institution.
right.
Like,
Well,
part of the part of the reinvention is actually really a restoration of what, no matter, he is a shitty human being, he owned slaves, he did some really shitty things, George Washington and many of our founders, not great people. They had a good idea and they put it down onto paper. They were progressive in some areas for their time, and they were also very awful people at the same
Well,
time.
I mean, they wouldn't
We'll, those two
do it that
truths,
way, right?
we'll
Exactly.
hold those two
Yeah.
truths. It's okay to hold those two truths.
Exactly. It's true.
And
It's like people are complicated. People are people of their time. I often wonder where my blind spots will be in
yeah,
history's light. And clearly, when they wrote "all men are created equal," they meant all men. All and men to them was white men, rich white men. That's it.
yes.
Everybody else, women were fucking property that had to be declared along with the cabinets and the chickens and shit. So it had
And
no.
one of the things we need to do is maybe it's okay to stop listening to Bernie. I've
Mm,
loved Bernie for a long time. Like, I voted for Bernie when I was first able to vote. Like, I grew up in
mm-hmm,
Vermont. We've known Bernie for a long time. He is part of the problem too now,
mm-hmm.
or at least strategists who are around him or people that he's allowed to be around him are part of the problem. The strategist who recruited Plattner is a problem. We need to break the system of two parties. We need to
Well,
restore that
one thing at a
idea
time. One
of
thing at a
multiple
time.
parties. Yeah, one thing at a time. I'm just saying, no, but this gives this is part of that vision, is what can we offer a better future of for people? People are tired of two parties. People are tired of Democrat and Republican. People are tired of what they see now as a uniparty. No matter what
Well,
we
that's
think, if that's true or not, that's what people see out of it. And that's what people are getting. And to offer them a future where that doesn't exist excites me. Like, I get excited
I get.
thinking about a future where we've got 12, 13 political parties running, or something better than two,
Yeah,
and they're
that'd be
not the
great.
same, and they are doing stuff and actually building real coalitions. And maybe part of the reinvention is how we handle the House and how we handle the
That would
Speaker
be
of the
great.
House.
I would love to have a parliamentary system. We should. I wish we could. I wish we can go
And we
back in
can,
time. But
yeah, and I think, but we don't have to go back in time to do that. Part of our forward reinvention is we can actually implement that.
well,
And
I
that
mean,
gives
first
people
things
a
first, my
vision.
friend.
No, I know. But this is where that discussion of long term versus short term really matters. Is, if we want to win short term, we still need a long term plan.
We do,
Like,
but we do. Okay. This is my. I mean, I know you have the 50-year thing, and I
even
share with
25
you.
years, but like,
Yeah,
I'm just putting a number out there.
yeah. But I think it's just too far. It's just too abstract, and we have to. This is the problem with Democrats, I believe. Not you. I'm not talking about you. That we don't. We just like the Republicans will tackle. They're all walking lockstep about certain things. You'll notice they're all on the same page, and then they change the page, and then they're on that page, right? And you hear it on Fox News, and they're all talking about it at the same time until then the next thing comes, right? With Democrats, we are all over the place, I think, and we have this problem, I believe, of just it's too much. It's too broad. I think at this period in time, we shouldn't be talking about changing to a parliamentary system. We should be discussing getting through the midterms, and then we take it from there, like with appropriate candidates, yes. And the vision should be that we believe in democracy, of course, but universal health care, unions, just the basic stuff that people can really envision for themselves. Because even though the Republicans, they did play the long game, especially with the courts and everything, but they wrapped it in the language of common sense. This is just common sense reform, and they never talked about it as like a 50-year plan. They talked about
No,
it
and
as,
that's
hmm
you're right. You're right. They never spoke about it as a 50-year
yeah,
plan, but they
because people,
had the
hmm
plan already.
no, they
So
totally
they
did.
have the talking points. Like,
Right.
I think that's part of the problem for the progressive, or for those who want progress, is we don't have a cohesive plan to all
No,
get behind.
no, it's
The
true.
Republican, the
That's what I'm
regressive side
saying.
did.
Hmm
And I think we have been living in this cycle of get through the midterms or get through the general
Well, at this point, that's
for
the,
a
yeah,
decade.
you're right. This is the most important election, but it is true
Oh,
this
absolutely.
time.
And I none of what I'm saying should downplay the severity of what's going on now.
Right. If we
I'm
don't
saying
stop
people
this,
need something to truly latch onto to see that we actually have a future past this.
hmm hmm
And I think people are seeing that, are starting to hear it. And there are people who are like universal health care or universal education or a universal basic income, if we're going to have to deal with
which
AI
used to
if
be
it
a
doesn't pop.
conservative idea,
Which, yeah,
by
used
the
to be a
way.
conservative idea,
Hmm
but it is a value of progress and moves people forward because it is a basic
Yeah.
social contract that gets met. Is we have to define that social contract,
Right.
and then how do our policies actually fit into that? And I think Trump did the thing that we need to do on our side, which he didn't actually talk about. You said it really clearly. He never talked about policy. Trump didn't talk
No.
anything about
Yeah. No.
policy.
But he would
He
say,
talked about a
yeah, yeah,
vision
yeah,
of
yeah.
what he saw America being, which was make America great again. He
Yes.
latched onto simple concepts with policy already behind him, with the decisions on how that policy was going to be implemented already in place. So he didn't have to even think about policy.
hmm
We can take Obama. Obama had a great approach to the way he spoke, the way he interacted. He had policy, yes, but when he talked, it was about hope.
Well,
It
that's
was
it.
about a
Yeah. He was
future.
right.
And
Hope.
people are
That was
so
his campaign.
scared
Hmm
right now. We need people who can continue, because I'm not saying we don't have them. We have a lot of candidates and a lot of folks who are now starting to get in office or who are winning their primaries, who speak really heavily on a vision of what we're going to accomplish, which is why I think groups like Courage for Democracy are really important, because they've built a coalition of candidates who have a single vision, who have a set of
hmm
policies that they are all going to work on, that they are all for. They might not all have the same agreement on exactly how those policies will be implemented, but they're all on the same page of these are the policies we are going to advocate for, because we already have most of them written. They're ready on day one. We can just put them on paper, on the floor. That's what we need more of, because that then builds, that allows others to build the policy and strategy for them to run on. Like, I've spoken with Kira Havens, who is one of the leads at Courage for Democracy and Citizens Impeachment.
hmm
I've spoken to her about disability rights and the DOJ Olmstead memo that came out and saying no to Crip Crow.
And tell people what that is, if you, because there
Yeah,
are a lot of
so
people who
so
don't know.
on June 19th, hold on, let me get the exact date. June 18th, the day before Juneteenth, the Department of Justice, with Stephen Miller being the primary one who put this policy out, according to Bloomberg, was the Department of Justice issued a memo titled, quote, Application of the Rehabilitation Act and Americans with Disabilities Act to State Institutionalization of Patients with Severe Mental Illness or Disabilities, end quote. So the memo is seeking to undermine and delegitimize the 1999 Olmstead
Mm.
decision, which was a landmark Supreme Court ruling that established the right of people with disabilities to live in their communities and not be forcibly institutionalized institutionalized. In the end, this is not just a disability issue. It is an attack on
Yeah.
civil liberties and a
Attack on
mechanism
humanity.
to label dissent as a mental illness.
Yep. Yep. This is, I
So,
mean, this is all RFK bullshit, and that they want to reinstitutionalize people and lock them away into
yes,
these horrible, oh, that's why we stopped doing that. Yeah.
whereas we're working to, or I'm working as I'm also the director of framing now at Disability Community for Democracy, and our friend Naida Green, who is the founder and CEO of my friend Naida Green, who's the founder and CEO of Disability Community for Democracy, is in the chat with us. Incredible person. She is doing, and the team are doing so much advocacy and behind the scenes work to get policy written, to codify the ADA into law, or codify
Right.
Olmstead into Section 2 of the ADA. And how do we get there? How do we use even this Congress to do it? Because we can. Because it's not Congress that really makes change in the laws. It's the people behind Congress that force it to happen. And we need to make people either, we have to play on people's emotions. And as
Hmm.
petty as that sounds, you have to play on others' emotions
Of
to figure out
course.
how to get this shit done. And if you're not afraid right now that your rights are about to be fucking taken away because of Olmstead, if you know, if your child is on a 504 or an IEP, guess what? They're going to get segregated again in school if this shit goes through. Texas has a lawsuit challenging Section 504, which is the 504 plans for students with disabilities who don't quite meet the IEP standards to get the support that they need to have an accessible and equitable classroom and education experience. Guess what? When that goes, your kid is going to get sent to a fucking room and not learn. They're going to be labeled as a problem, and they're going to get sent to another school and not learn. Or they're going to be put further into the special ed to prison pipeline. That's what that is. That's what this memo will do. That's what the destruction of 504, the destruction of Olmstead, that is what this will do. If you're a veteran and you use your mental health or go to a mental health provider at the VA and you dissent in any way, guess what? You're going to get fucking forcibly institutionalized because you're a target, because you're a loud voice that people will trust. Well, they don't want that dissent. So you get taken away. If you have any form of strong disability that presents itself, say you are non-functioning autistic, guess what? You're going to one of those fucking autism camps. That's what they want to do with this. That is what these
Yes.
memos are for. That is regression.
Of
And
course.
if that
That's all they
doesn't
have.
make you afraid,
They're disgusting.
then I don't know what will at this point. But
Right.
after speaking to the Amanda, I cannot say her last name correctly. She is the she is the Democratic candidate for Alabama 4. Go support Amanda for Democracy. She is, or Amanda for Alabama. She's awesome. And we were talking about this. Naida and I were talking with her this morning about this. Is this issue specifically? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I will work on what a better way to discuss that is, Neuro. I'm not sure. So if there's ways we can talk about, like, how do we discuss autism without the ableism behind
Oh,
it, that would
why?
be
What
great.
happened? Somebody said
No,
something.
Neuro's one of our friends in the chat is very good on linguistics and speaks a lot about how we can reframe our discussions points without ableistic terms.
Mm,
And so she gave a great comment back of do not like non-low high functioning in any terms applied to autism. And I think I agree. I just don't know how else to talk about it right now. And I think there's a good way that we can
mm-hmm.
figure out better terms.
Right.
And are those, but are those levels actually ableist in themselves in the way we speak about that? That's a different conversation. I love the discussion that we can have on that. Neuro, I think we should talk offline to to figure out ways that, and if there are better terms, and if others in the chat know better terms
Mm-hmm.
that I can start using, thank you. I want to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that I improve the way that I speak about this. But if you have autism in any way, in any level of autism, guess what? If you can't produce for this system, they're going to lock you away.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Well, they're
And
defunding it.
so
Yeah, they're defunding these education in schools that teach young people. And in fact, the inclusion of non-disabled or whatever, of all people, actually helps at developing children when when you separate someone who's different. It enforces prejudice, and it also enforces the ignorance.
it
So
enforces segregation, is
yes.
what they're trying to do. And people think that segregation and discrimination ended when we passed civil rights laws. It didn't. It took
Mm,
until the ADA and Olmstead were passed in
right.
1990 and 1999, where the Olmstead decision happened, to actually end segregation
Mm,
in many ways, because the
hmm.
disability community was left out when civil rights were put in.
Right. Right.
And we need to finally discuss all of that. And part of that is, if you're afraid right now, use that to fuel your civic engagement, partially,
Hmm.
because when you get civically engaged and you start calling representatives and senators, and after speaking with former representatives and senators like John Tester, Joe Walsh, and others, is those calls matter.
Yeah.
Those personal engagements with your representative and senators make a real difference. And if 1 million people called a day saying, we want Olmstead codified into Section 2 of the ADA, or this is what we are demanding,
Hmm.
there would be real change. That is a tangible thing that we can do even with this Congress. And that's where Tara and I are both on the same level too, is we have an immediate threat that needs to be taken care of. And we have to be on offense
Hmm.
for what we want. And that's where I think even a 25-year vision, but some vision well past Trump and Trumpism and MAGAism and all of this crap, we have to see far enough beyond it that people are on board and don't see their old political divides in it.
Hmm.
Because it's not about politics, it's about basic dignity and humanity. And if we can, and as we continue to remind more people of that, like Amanda was saying this morning on our interview, again, Amanda is running for US Congress in Alabama, District 4, largest district in Alabama. Support the heck out of her. Is the people that she was speaking to, people in her district, weren't engaged on disability rights or engaged really until this Olmstead memo came out,
Mm,
because it scares the shit out of them, because they know it will
right.
hit them personally.
It's so disgusting that this is what they're doing. They want to make us segregated in general. They
It
want
is.
us to be separate, as Henry Wallace says. They want to exploit every fissure of disunity, every crack in the human experience. You know, they just want to make everybody. They want us against each other, so that will promote fear, and it will make it
And we
easier.
need a vision of bringing people in,
Hmm.
not putting them out.
Right, and it
And
also
that
it's
includes
better.
the people that we don't agree with right now. That
Well,
includes MAGA. I want,
I hear
I,
you.
and
Yeah.
this is where, Tara, you and I have had great discussions and differences opinions on this. My thought is we have to bring them back in. I'm not saying for this election.
Yeah.
Don't even, like, they're stuck. They're in a cult. It's a cult right now. Cults take years and years of deprogramming to get out of. But every cult expert out there says there's one really important thing we on the outside of the cult must do to get someone out of it. is you have to bring them in.
Yes.
You have to meet them where they're at right now and bring them back in. And it takes years of effort to do sometimes.
It's not, it doesn't take, see, this is what I don't know. I mean, we're running over, but
I'm
it
glad we're having
is,
a great
yeah,
discussion.
yeah,
Thank
it's great. It's great. It's propaganda. These people are propagandized. And so if we, I mean, they're consuming the lies from the right wing media. This is, not just me talking. There are studies. If you take a Trump supporter, let's say, and you turn them away from Fox News and the other Russian-funded influencer channels, and you make them watch other sources of news, suddenly they're not as cultified. And in fact, I believe that the MAGAs a lot of Republicans, working class Republicans, they share the same. There's a lot of overlap between MAGA voters say what they say what they want as far as the kind of society they want, and democratic socialists, to be frank. They talk about health care, they talk about unions, they working people need a they all, and I've talked to these people too. They want Medicare, they want their social security expanded, hands off government, hands off my Medicare, government hands off my social security. But they have been propagandized to think that they're not getting more social security because illegals or some other is taking
you.
advantage of it. That's what they really believe. They really think that. So they think that if we mass deportation now, that means that they will get bigger social security checks because the Democrats are giving it all to illegals and asylum seekers and whatnot, which is bullshit, of course. It's absolute bullshit. So both MAGA voters and Democratic socialists would talk about wanting good jobs, higher wages, end of communities being hollowed out by offshoring and deindustrialization, right? We talk about the same
Hmm.
thing. Both talk about anti-elitism. I mean, one of this is what I'm saying.
As
But
long as we don't fall into the trap of the America First Party and the bullshit that Tucker Carlson and Marjorie
yeah,
Taylor
I mean,
Greene are
that's
going to
all
try and
bullshit.
throw in,
Right.
because they're going to use those terms and put out a
Exactly.
vision that is slightly different than what Trump's is. And we're
Well,
going to,
that's why, yeah.
if they unite, there's a distinct possibility we will have the first openly Nazi president.
Yeah, no, that's why Trump is as he's just a sinister cancer in the body politic, because he did talk about how everybody's going to get health care. It's going to be the biggest, greatest, easiest deal to do. It's not going to cost anything. Everyone's going to have bigger paychecks. I mean, he paints the vision of prosperity that only can come through taxing the rich and having strong unions and a strong social safety net. But of course, they don't govern like that. They govern as smash and
Hmm.
grab, and it's just making the rich richer. That's it. That is Republican policy for decades. We can look at the math that every time Republicans get in office, the income disparity and upward immobility gets worse for working people. But then here comes their propaganda channels to focus that anger against themselves, ultimately
Hmm.
against those lower on the ladder. And I'm sure you've heard it before, how I've heard it in my own family, how my sister was complaining about how my niece and nephew, how much money they're paying for college. And and then she's like, well, if they were dreamers, they'd get a full ride, right? And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's true, first of all, but second of all, don't you see that you shouldn't be focusing your anger on someone who's vulnerable and lower on the ladder? Because you should be focusing your anger on the people who are writing the policy and making it this way, where kids have to go to school and come out as indentured servants to banks, when we used to be able to go to school and educate young people for free. Before Reagan, kids could come out. You can go to college for free, and get a good college education too. So yeah, this is the whole part of the scam here, part of
Yep.
the way, and Henry Wallace wrote all about it. That's what's so concerning as well in his letter. Well, an opinion piece he wrote for the New York Times in 1945 about the dangers of American fascism. I think it should be required reading in every high school, frankly. And if you haven't read it, just Google it and read it, because it applies today. He was prophetic, frankly, and that's what we're dealing with. The American fascist can be, what I mean, off the top of my head, the American fascist can be recognized by his deliberate perversion of truth and fact. That's one of the lines in there. I mean, they claim to be super patriots, but they're the spokespeople for monopoly, and
Hmm.
and that's what they. I mean, hey,
And
stop me
I
when I'm
and
wrong.
this is where you and I have such an agreement on is the moral ambition and the moral positive program. I think that it's not it's we have to get past the politics of it because it's not a political divide.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah,
are
it's
in
true.
a
It's true.
realignment period in our nation again. We are in a political realignment. Old battle lines of conservative and liberal don't really mean anything to a lot of
Right.
folks anymore. And that's okay because we're finally understanding that there are certain moral categories that just aren't up for debate. And it's finally time that we reinvent our system to account for those moral accountabilities. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that gives us a great wrap up, I guess, with where we
Yes.
were to finish out our book, to
Yeah.
close out Surviving Autocracy. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of work to do. There's a lot
Amen.
ahead of us. And part of what's ahead of us is continuing the book club and our discussions. And here in a second, we'll get to our QR codes for everybody, for Tara and I both to be
All
able
right.
to recommend ourselves and promote our work. But I want to put up the book that we're going to be getting next week. And it's the next book in our series, and it's How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi.
Hmm. That's a good one.
And this one is going to be a really good one. This one's going to be a really great discussion. I've reached out to some other creators to see if they want to come on as guests for the series. I'd love to reach out to Ibram himself. He's on
Mm.
Substack.
Oh
Um,
wow,
and I'd love to reach out to him and see if he'd be interested in coming
that'd
on
be
for a show to
amazing. Yeah.
discuss his book, because that would be such an insight into it.
Wow, that would be amazing.
And remember, what this book club is about is giving you the knowledge so that you can turn it into power. So you can take that knowledge and learn from it, because it's not good enough to be an anti-racist. You
Hmm.
have to you have to be actively anti-racist. It's not just good enough to be pro-democracy. You have to be on offense for democracy,
All
which
right.
means you have to have a vision for what we are going towards and what we want to do. And so, Tara, this has been a lot
Yes.
of fun.
Yeah.
Again,
Thank you.
I'm going to switch over to our QR codes here. Oh, that's not the first QR code I wanted.
It's okay.
I'm going to start with
That
Banner and
counts
Backbone
too.
here.
Mhm.
Come support Banner and Backbone. Come support the work we're doing. Come support the Anti-Fascist Book Club. Help us continue to grow this network. Free subscribers are always the best. If you can afford to be a paid one, that would be great. But if not, become a free subscriber, like, share, and restack this so that the word and message can get out, so
Mhm.
we can have more conversations. The end goal here is to spark conversation, because we're trying to rise, which is reclaim reclaim integrity, service, and ethics in the political sphere. And that requires us to do it in the civic sphere. That requires us to do it outside of politics themselves and reclaim
Mhm.
our culture and ourselves and what is right, and stop having ambiguity in our words in our discussions and actually making words mean things again.
Mm-hmm.
And
That'd be
so come
nice.
join Banner and Backbone where we're trying to do that. And then come support my
Oh my
friend
God,
Tara
it's
Devlin
me.
over at Terra Buster. Tara,
Thank
promote
you.
yourself.
Well, come on, somebody swipe that damn QR code. All right. We have a show tonight, 8:30 p.m. at the Tarabuster YouTube channel, youtube.com/CP channel/Tarabuster. Support my Patreon if you can, please. Even if you can't do it for money, like Nick said, you could just subscribe, and that helps get the numbers up because we got to get the word out, and this is how we're going to win. And if you want to win, we stick together, we win. And yeah, this is what we got to do. Fight the
Thanks, Sarah.
propaganda. Thank you so much, Nick. Thank
Heck
you.
yeah. Fight the propaganda is right.
Hmm.
Part of that is helping work on better humaning and seeing visibility where in disability and chronic illness. And so come join me at Sick of the Shit Publications where I'm doing that. That's my goal. That's my focus. And right now, with the new partnership and my new work as director at of framing at Disability Community for Democracy, I have a huge hyper focus on the DOJ Olmstead memo and the attacks on our rights and freedoms, because it's not just about disability rights. It is all of our rights. They're being assaulted, and we have a chance to actually do something to fix that, to codify them, to stand up and say, nah, we got this. And then we do it. And so come join Sick of the Shit Publications, help us get that word out, help us create a better humaning experience. We're exploring emotional maturity and intelligence and how we get there and what do we do to better ourselves. How do we accept our failings and grow our intent, and how our impact is met, and what does it mean to have a positive impact and match your intent to that. So we're trying, we're doing that, we're learning and growing. So come support Sick of the Shit Publications, running a 20% off sale during Disability Pride Month for the rest of this month. So 20% off forever on a paid subscription. If you would like to upgrade or just become one, that's great. If not, free subs really help to get the message out. And as always, like, share, and restack for all of it, because that's where we can get into the feeds and the algorithms and all that nonsense.
That's it.
And so we can't get this message out if you don't spread it. So help us spread it. Be a super spreader.
Otherwise, we're doomed. We're doomed. You want to do
We're
us?
doomed if we don't break through the propaganda, we're doomed.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here with us this week. Tara, I really appreciate you and this discussion. And again, everyone, next week we will be starting How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi. I'm going to be reaching out to him to see if he'd be interested in coming on for a discussion with us about his own book. That would be super awesome to have the author here. So thanks, everyone. I'm Nick Perro, founder here at Banner and Backbone, with my good friend Tara Devlin of Terra Busters. We'll be back next week for another anti-fascist book club. Go have a great weekend. Go do something anti-fascist, which means go build community, go spread joy, and go remind people of civic engagement and the good feelings that it gives you when you're civically involved. So revel in those feelings of good and let yourself be engaged. Thanks, everyone. Let's go have a great weekend. See you next week. Thanks, Tara.
See you 8:30 tonight. See ya.